Do you have a
Oh, I guess I can't do both of those. Interesting.
do you have an introduction set up?
No, I have absolutely nothing. No, I guess I can't stream and record at the same time.
Ooh.
At least not with whatever settings I have apparently. That's weird. Whatever. I'm just gonna record then instead of streaming
Okay.
since I kind of want to save this for the moment and then create a
Okay.
video
Okay.
out of it. Okay, so we are in the first season of the Unnamed Blood Bowl League. Mose, how you
Welcome.
feeling?
Welcome. I'm doing good. Thank you. Yeah, this is going to be very interesting. Unnamed Blood Bowl League, up and coming, and we're about to spectate, or we're about to lean into the minds of 10 very different coaches in 10 very different teams, and I'm very excited to go through this bracket. How about you?
I can't be more excited, honestly. I'm gonna call this the pre-cap for this season
Fair.
because we're not. I'm figuring we'll do a recap each week. Get the information on what's happened. We may or may not already know the outcomes of one of these games.
Definitely
Uh,
not.
we're
Disregard.
gonna we're gonna disregard that for the. We're gonna be under the assumption that that hasn't happened for the rest of this recording. But let's
That's
just
right.
say
We've
that
taken a time machine and went back.
most people already know what's happened in the first game of the season, but and ignore that little up arrow that's bouncing around on the screen right now. All right, let's go into the first team. That's gonna be Tiptoes by Quill Fancy Sun. He's gonna be running this team. So all right, so look, let's just look at the picture real fast of this team. Look at
Yep.
this, the picture of classic dwarfs. It's the little things that matter. Starting off right off the
Lots
bat,
of beards. Lots of beards.
nothing but beards out here. But the first thing I'm just going to point out right off the bat, huge fan of the team name and the team theme. If you don't know what Tiptoes is, go on IMDb, go on Wikipedia. Maybe don't watch the movie, but definitely understand this at some point before you play this team because this is actually one of my favorite things that I've
Very,
seen.
very solid team in the flavor department. Overall, I give them like a 9 out of 10 as far as flavor is
Well, I'm
concerned.
not gonna go at a 9 out of 10, just
Okay.
because there's a level of cleverness to the team name that I appreciate. But once the team name is done, the actual team
I think
players,
once you get it, it does all kind of come together in one nice
yeah, it's a
circle.
solid thing. If I'm gonna go for flavor, I'm going I'm going 8 out of 10 because I'm not gonna go half points because I'm not an asshole. I'm going 8 out of
Okay,
10.
I'll meet you at 8, just so
Okay,
we're at a consensus.
I'm going at 8 out of 10 just because I feel like there could have been more effort put into making them more fun names other than just the names of the actors and actresses. But the fact that he named his team after a movie based around dwarves and midgets is hilarious to me because his team is
Very
dwarves.
strong. So yeah, so taking a look at the team, we have, it looks like 2 runners, 2 blitzers, 2 troll slayers, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 longbeards. What do you think of that roster he's got going on there?
It's a pretty standard setup. So I know that a lot of our players are not super experienced. So I think I'm gonna try to do my best to walk through kind of this what the standard roster would be for a team like this, what we have, and basically just give my analysis of where I think their plans are. And then you can kind of cut in, ask any questions because I know you're probably not as familiar with the rosters and players as I am. So, but feel free to because you're gonna
Correct.
be
Go ahead.
my my
The
man on
novice
the
point of view.
yeah, you're gonna be my man to let me know when I'm confusing people. So. Yeah, so your runners, obviously, as the name implies, they're going to be your only dwarves that have 6 movement, which 6 is basically standard for most teams. So for a runner, that's not great, but they're dwarves, so they've got sure hands. They're going to be able to pick up the ball more likely than other players. Every player on the team has thick skull. That's that skull symbol you're going to see there. That just means that they're more likely to get KO'd than taken out of the game. That's basically all that does.
Fair enough.
Also, you're going to see on almost every player, you're going to see block. Other than those runners, you see block on every single one of these players. That is dwarves to a T. Dwarves' jobs are to stand in place and block. So if you're planning on getting into a fight with this team straight up early levels, it's a bad idea. They're going to win most engagements, even with only they have a standard 3 strength down the line. So they're not anything crazy when it comes to strength, but like I said, that block gives them a huge advantage over most
Block is
teams.
very good. Now, the first thing that jumped out to me was this, to me, very high armor value. There's 8s and 9s. That's
Yes,
as high as we've ever
yes,
seen. Is that the
yeah.
highest in the league?
9 is generally the highest you're gonna see. Eight is I wouldn't say standard. Maybe it is. Eight's about where most teams are gonna sit. Nine is above average. You might see a 10 here or there depending on what teams we have, but in our league, I believe 9 is going to be the highest you're going to see, unless
So if
someone
this
levels up.
team, so if this team does manage to get injured, it might be a bigger deal for this team than say another team. Is that a fair statement?
They're just more likely to not get injured is the better way of putting it.
Okay.
They're actually they just have with 8 and 9 armor. Chances are, if you knock them down, they're getting back up next round. Whereas with
Fair
an
enough.
elf
So we
team,
might see
you're
not
not
a
going to see that.
first round apothecary pickup. We might see a delayed
Yeah, we
apothecary.
already see actually that they don't have an apothecary. He only took 3 team rerolls in all of his players. But so yeah,
Three is
looking.
the standard, correct? That normally you want three. Two is a little low, and four is a little too much.
Yeah. I would say 3 is for the beginning for a starting team. 3 is solid. 2 is fine for a starting team because most of the time you're running low on money. So
Hmm.
3 is especially for a more inexperienced coach. 3 is a very solid number of rerolls for a half. So yeah, just getting down to the last of the players here. We've got the 2 Troll Slayers. They're kind of the specialized kind of like the
To
secret
me,
weapon for the team.
to me, these two are going to be the make or break for this team. And maybe it's just because I value Frenzy a little high.
Yeah.
I feel like it's a an important pickup that could throw some of these newer teams off, not knowing how to deal with a character with Frenzy.
Yeah, so I'm actually gonna zoom in on one of these Troll Slayer players to show you. So block, if you don't know, which you should, is gonna stop your character from getting knocked down on a both down roll. Thick Skull, as I said. Oh, sorry, my mistake. I said before that it was more likely to be KO'd. It's actually more likely to be stunned and not KO'd and taken out. Dauntless is a great skill. Dauntless basically lets you run up to an enemy who has more strength than you, roll a d6 and add it to your strength. If it's equal to, if it's greater than the strength of your opponent, then you're going to act as if your strength is equal to your opponent's for that roll. So this troll, even though he only has 3 strength, he can run up to a 5 strength big guy, roll a die, get lucky, like 50-50 shot basically at that point, get lucky, and then roll as if he had 5 strength, giving him a 1 die instead of red dice. So these guys are designed to take down big guys. They also have Frenzy. Frenzy is a very cool skill that lets you, if you push an enemy, then instead of just ending your turn there, you will immediately follow up on them and then have another hit on them. It's dangerous because you can run into big blocks of enemies and start red dicing. It doesn't allow you to stop. You always have to follow up, but overall, great ability to start pushing people around the field. And then you got your Longbeards, which are basically the equivalent of your linemen on most teams, except that this lineman is crazy good. 4 movement is real slow. There's your downside. On the
Hmm.
upside, block and tackle. Tackle basically gives a huge FU to any players with dodge out there. Tackle just lets you completely ignore dodge both on dice rolls for hits and on dice rolls for dodging away. So these players, this dwarf team, their advantage against elves is tackle. Their disadvantage against something like elves, their slow ass movement speed. So how are you
Very
feeling about
true.
this team then?
It's very interesting. The only other thing that I would like to point out would be the value for each individual player.
Yep.
And this is very strange. I'm seeing 70s, 80s, and 90s. We don't see some super expensive unit like a big guy that's worth 140K, and we don't see the linemen, which in some teams are worth maybe like 40, 50K, if I'm getting that
Yeah,
correctly.
every player on this team is about they're averaging at about 80K, and they're all pretty close to that. Dwarves are designed as a team to just be a big, like basically an unstoppable wall of dwarves, and they aren't really designed to be any super great or super terrible players on the team. However, there is the possibility to pick up what's called a death roller for the dwarves. You're not seeing it on this team, while technically possible to change his team at this point. I'm not expecting him to do it. It is possible for a dwarf team to have a death roller, which is a secret weapon, which means they're only on the field for one drive before being kicked off. But it is a big guy. It's a dwarf on a giant spiky steamroller who's able to just do massive damage to anyone in front of him.
All right, can't wait to see that come out at some point during the season.
We'll see. It's not something you see on every dwarf team, but it's a fun character. So we'll see how Quill ends up playing this team. I'm excited to see how Quill plays this.
Okay.
Dwarves are an interesting team, but they're slow and methodical. So
Okay, and just to wrap it up, who would be your MVP for this team?
Oh,
Personally,
MVP,
I'm going to pick Matthew McConaughey. All right, all right.
Let me jump back in. I mean, I gotta go. If I'm gonna go for anybody, I'm going for David Allen Greer.
Ooh,
I gotta go
respectable choice.
with my boy David Allen Greer. He's a Longbeard. You know, he's not a troll slayer. He's not a runner. But I'm saying David Allen Greer. I'm calling it now. If anybody on this team is gonna do the work, it's my boy DAG.
All right, you heard it here first. Moving on.
All right. So now we've got Xanadu with Are You Not Entertained? So I've been calling them the Ents because it's just easier to call them that. So they're calling for Treebeard here. Although for this team called Are You Not Entertained, you'll notice a severe lack of treemen.
Flavor. Ooh, this is just.
I mean, I have to agree on flavor here. I think I'm going to drop it with the lack of a tree man. I mean, I understand, from my understanding, we had our man in the field talking to Xanadu earlier today, and my understanding is that he valued the extra war dancer over the tree man. Skill over strength, basically, is what he's planning on for this team. So he's planning on buying one later, I understand, but for now, these war dancers are just too expensive to allow him to have one. But I gotta say, for flavor, I gotta knock him down. If you're making a team that has ent puns and you don't have a tree man, I mean, at least he has some substance here, but I'm going with a 4 out of 10.
I agree with that completely. I think he took the wrong turn to Flavor Town and missed it completely. But overall, I think it's a very strong lineup individually, and we'll get into some of these characters in just a second. But as far as flavor, I'll give him. I think 4 is fair. Slightly
Yeah,
below
I mean,
average.
he has named his players. They are unique to some degree, but we're playing Blood Bowl. We're playing in a high fantasy scenario, and he's named them after Lord of the Rings characters. Doesn't really get much more generic than that.
At least there's no Tom Bombadil. That's all I have to say.
That's fair. I think they're all named after elves, though. I could be wrong, since they're elves. I don't know Lord of the Rings that well, so I assume they're all named after elves since they're elves, but I could be wrong. And
All
if
right,
they're not,
so
I don't know what he's doing.
let's get into the top of the roster right here. Right now, we're seeing 2 war dancers. Now, these are 2 very potent combatants on the pitch.
Yeah.
What's your take on these 2?
I've said it before, and I'm going to say it again. War Dancers are, without a doubt, the best players out of the box. They are, without any skill ups, without any advantages, without any experience or anything like that, they are the best player in Blood Bowl. I mean, sure, you could sit there and say, oh, there's big guys that have more strength, or other characters that have this or that, or blah, blah, blah. No. War Dancers get block, dodge, and leap. And they have 4 agility and 8 movement. They are fast, they can get in and out of any situation, and they are hard to take down. Anything but a roll of a POW, which is the yellow, the only, like, basically a roll of a 6. Anything lower will not take this character to the ground. I mean, it's tough. If you don't have tackle or wrestle, which most teams don't, you're going to see it from the dwarves. We already saw they had some, but dwarves are so slow. Are they even going to be able to catch these war dancers is the question.
It is a very tough stat line to take down. In my opinion, the only weak link in this is an armor value of 7, which is mediocre. And
It's
leap,
low. Yeah.
It is low. Okay, mediocre is low. And that leap skill is a little bit like a kind of like a special pick. So maybe certainly not as valued as a block or dodge.
Oh no, Blodge. Blodge is something that almost any character can benefit from, and War Dancers are one of the few characters in the game that start with it. It's so strong early on. He just has to hope that these characters, that these war dancers he has here, if they don't get injured or killed early on, they are going to be extremely potent for his team. I mean, you can see the
Yeah.
rest of his team is basically linemen. Right off the bat, I'm also going to dock him a point for having a thrower in the middle of his linemen here. He didn't. A little bit of OCD thing here. I would have put this thrower up
Ooh,
here.
symmetry. Sorry.
I would have swapped that thing. I'm actually going to drop him down on. I can't drop him down on flavor, but overall, I'm just going to say shame on you for not having a
He
proper
does have a
lineup here.
1 point in fan factor, so maybe a little bit of counterbalance there.
The fan factor bonus, yeah, that'll give him bonuses on kickoffs as well as the possibility of getting extra bonuses throughout the game and at the end of the game. So it just basically adds one bonus to your roll of 2d6 on things on rolls for fans and things like that. So if you look into the kickoff events and end of game events and stuff like that, you'll see how fan factor factors in. Coach assistants similarly, and cheerleaders allow you to more easily bring players out of KO back onto the field.
There you go.
Only
Now,
two
to me, this
rerolls.
elf team, 2 rerolls, we'll talk about that in a second, but to me, this elf team has the potential to snowball. Just if you get that, the special points on these war dancers, if you get them leveled up, if you keep them healthy, this just has the potential to really run rampant in this league.
I agree. Those war dancers, if those war dancers stay alive, I think that Are You Not Entertained is going to have a huge benefit and advantage over most teams. I mean, but that's the whole Armor 7 conundrum, though.
And that's kind of the whole crux of the situation too. Whereas if the other teams in this league recognize that these war dancers are pivotal to this elf team, then maybe there's a little bit of scrum that might go on regarding his war dancers if they can be taken down. That is the key.
Yeah, if people focus these war dancers and hit them every game, I can't imagine both of these war dancers make it through the season. Maybe one, and honestly, he'll probably just buy another. I mean, they're 120k, they're expensive, but if you
Where
have
do you
to buy
see this team going? Where do you expect the early cash flow to be going into? Another reroll?
I think
Another
Apothecary
line
has
grab?
to be his first purchase. Apothecary has to. I think Apothecary has to be his first purchase. Without it, any hits on like we're saying, if the war dancers get injured, they're out of the game, and then they could possibly be out for the season if they get hurt bad enough. He needs that Apothecary to make sure that he can hold on to it. He needs to basically just assume throughout the season that if anyone other than a war dancer gets injured, he's not using that Apothecary. He needs to wait until one of his war dancers in a game. I don't care if one of your linemen dies. I don't care if your thrower dies. Unless his thrower is 4 or 5 levels up, I don't care what happens to your linemen. You let them die, because if that war dancer gets injured later in the game, you need that Apothecary. You cannot lose these war dancers.
Excellent point.
So who's your MVP for this team then? Who are you rooting on? Let's ignore that up arrow.
That's really hard. You know what? I'm going to give it to Ulmo, just because it's the lone thrower. He's kind of in the middle of nowhere. This coach, I think, has a special plan for him. So I'm expecting some absolutely insane plays coming out of Ulmo this season.
Okay. Well, my MVP is going to be Manway.
What makes you think that?
Just luck, guess. I'll see. We'll see where it goes. But
All right,
I just have
fair
a good feeling about him. All right, let's move on.
Very good team all around.
All right, next team is Cirque du Slay. Now, their team slogan is "Come one, come all." Now, just gonna put something out there real fast. Mose, you wouldn't happen to have any insider information about this team, would you?
I have absolutely no insider information about this team, but I do know that their coach is one of the best in the league, and that every team should absolutely be feared when they go up against this team.
Sure, that's totally the way you meant to say that sentence.
Yes, as in this team should
Yes.
fear every team
Yes,
that it
yes.
goes up against. I know what I said.
Okay. So let's start where we always start, which is with Team Flair or Flavor, as we've been
10 out of
calling
10.
it. You know what? I'm almost on your side. I'm gonna go 9 out of 10. I think that
Okay.
I think that the only point I'm docking it here is for the generic concept of they are a circus group. Circus answers. It's simple, although I give it the points back up. Like I said, it's up to 9 still, just for, I mean, look at these names: Roscoe the Talking Bear, Human Cannonball Hugo, Boris the Butcher, Lanka the Bearded Lady, Juggler Jacob, Leo the Lion Man. I mean, these are
We're starting
solid,
to see some flavor
solid
pour
names.
through. We've made it to Flavor Town.
We are call Guy Fieri. We are in Flavor Town, and he can't get us out of here. So this is the Kislev team. And the Kislev team has one basic tenet behind their entire character system, which is all of their characters have both leap and very long legs. Leap allows them to jump 2 squares at any time, once per turn, without worrying about who might be near them or who might be blocking them. However, that is a generally dangerous skill to use because it's a straight agility roll and it's unlikely to succeed, but with very long legs, they get a +1 to every roll, which means they generally don't have worse than a 50-50 shot on a bad day to land those leaps. So if you're running up against this Kislev team, expect some jumping, expect some leaping. Be careful of anything that you try to block them with where they can just leap over your head and run away. It's going to happen. And then, of course, the Tame Bear is your big guy for this team, who has Strength 5, Mighty Blow, Prehensile Tail. He is the hitter for the team. He's the one that's going to stand in your way, stop you from moving, and punch you until you fall. So
Yeah, the stat line for most of the Kislev is not that impressive, to be honest. 8 armor value is okay. That's kind of middle of the road.
Mm-hmm.
But the 7s are a little worrying, and honestly, the 6 movement is just standard. So this isn't like a crazy statted team. So if this team is going to have any success whatsoever, it's going to have to utilize the very long legs and the leap skill to perfection to see success.
Yeah, and I think they're going to have to use that bear properly too to get that.
And something we might want to bring up is that they do have a 4th subtype, being the Blitzer, but there are not any on this team.
That is correct.
Those could be potential stars coming in.
I imagine
but
that's
you do
going
need to get them leveled up.
I imagine after an Apothecary, I imagine the Blitzers being the first purchase for this team. I mean, you're going to want those Blitzers on the team. They are a very useful player. This team has clearly chosen to use Tamed Bear over what would generally be used, which would be the Blitzers. But honestly, I like the Bear. I not just from a the Bear is cool, like rule of cool perspective. I actually think the Bear is a really useful tool to be able to lock up any enemies with the Prehensile Tail. 5 strength means that if anyone wants to hit this Bear, they're going to be bringing in generally at least 2. On a standard player, you're going to be bringing in 2 helpers just to get 1 die. 3 if you want the 2 dice. So it's a tough guy to bring down.
It's tough for sure, and I think the biggest thing with the Bear would be that it turns a somewhat one-dimensional team into utilizing leap correctly into a little bit more out of your comfort zone, where at least you have something that can go up against some of those broodier type teams.
Yeah. Your bashier teams are definitely going to have trouble with the Tame Bear, even if they're 4 strength. So yeah, you're going to see that Tame Bear. I think that Tame Bear is a useful player that's going to come in important. And also 4 team rerolls. That is, you don't see 4 team rerolls on a start very often. But I will say, I was going to say, yeah, Kislev. If there's one team that needs those extra rerolls, it's Kislev. Those leaps are not free.
Sometimes you get lucky and you get the extra perk. For an extra reroll per half. So maybe we'll see a couple of those come out.
I doubt it.
Okay, moving on.
So yeah, MVP for the team?
Ooh, I think my MVP has to be Hugo the Human Cannonball. He's ready to get in there. His whole life is dependent upon being what the team needs in order for success to happen.
That makes sense to me. I got to go with Lanka the Bearded Lady. I think they are going to have a great year.
Carefully spoken.
Yep. And I think that they're... I can't see anyone but them being the true hero of this team. I mean, I could see Roscoe the Talking Bear doing the work, but honestly, I think Lanka is going to be out there handling business. So... All right, let's
They certainly can handle some things.
all right, let's move on
Moving
to
on.
the Periite pustules. I believe that's Periites pustules. That's not an easy name to say. By Tim Rem here, Timothy Rem. This is the
Very
Nurgle
good
team.
coach. Yep.
The Nurgle team.
Absolutely disgusting lineup we have out
There's
there. Look at
absolutely
these
nothing else to
gross.
say except for the fact that they are gross as shit. We are afflicted, blessed. We are the afflicted, blessed with pestilence. That is the most Nurgle shit I've ever seen. So yeah, we're gonna see an interesting team lineup here. So we're gonna start with the flair or flavor. I keep calling it flair. I like flavor better. I don't know why I keep saying flair. So the flavor here is that they're cult. They're a cult, I guess.
Okay.
They're a cult of Periite. I think that's where they're going with this. If I'm missing anything,
What is Periite? Is that
I believe that's a
He's
Elder
the
Scrolls
Beast of Nurgle?
reference. No, I believe it's an Elder
Okay.
Scrolls reference. I believe it's a Daedric prince.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense.
I don't know what he is the prince of. I can look this up while we're talking, but for
It's
the
probably
moment,
the Prince of Skills because I'm looking at 8 skill. Is that correct? Do my eyes deceive?
no, you are correct. That is 8 skills.
Wow.
However, multiple of them are not good. So I'm actually gonna
Things
click
I've never seen
8.
before.
I'm gonna click into this. I'm gonna click into this Beast of Nurgle here to. I'm sorry. Before we go any further, how do you feel flavor wise? What do you give this team?
Oh, flavor-wise, very strong. I'm gonna say solid 7.
Yeah, I'm tempted to give it
I
a
almost went
6.
8.
Really? I'm tempted to give it a 6 because I feel like they started giving some interesting names, and the afflicted tag and the chosen tag. I like that they're using them.
I do like that. Yeah.
I do that, but it's not. It's well done, but not super clever. So I'm gonna stick with 7. I agree with that. I think 7 is a solid choice for that. So I think that's a fair number. So yeah, we'll move on to the Beast of Nurgle
Do
here.
you give any points to the ascending order? And by that I mean he
ascending
has
order?
on his rodders he has an A name, B name, C name, D name, E name.
Ooh, you know what?
I give slight points for that.
I give him not enough to bring him to an 8, but I didn't realize that until you just said that. He has A,
Okay.
B, and then A, B, C, D, E. Didn't think about that. That's clever.
So very good.
Bonus
Very good
points,
flavor.
not enough to give him the extra 8, in my opinion.
Okay.
So
Well
yeah,
done.
let's
Well
go
done.
through the Beast of Nurgle. Let's go through the Beast of Nurgle here. So we've got this is the big guy for the team. 5 strength, 4 movement, 1 agility, 9 armor. So he's going to be a tough customer if you're actually fighting him. However, he's not going to be able to move around very much. He's got loner, which means that rerolls. It's a risk to try to use rerolls on him. That is a nega trait. Not good. Really stupid. So this is a very bad nega trait. This is one of the worst nega traits you can have on a big guy. It means that he has if he doesn't have anyone near him, that means that he has a 50-50 chance of not doing anything on his turn. If he has a player on his side next to him, then it's a 1 in 6 chance of doing nothing on his turn, which is much better, but still most big guys have a 1 in 6 chance of doing nothing with Bonehead anyway, but that extra possibility of a 50% chance if nobody's nearby, that's not great. So it's a risk to even move this character. So
Could be devastating.
but let's move on to the better skills on this character, the non-nega traits. So we've got Disturbing Presence. The general thing here is that anyone within the range, which is 3 squares in any direction, subtracts 1 from any pass, interception, or catch they are trying to do. So basically anyone even nearby is going to have, that is anywhere near this guy, is going to have a harder time passing, catching, or intercepting, which is a great skill, especially when due to the fact that it stacks with everybody else on the team who has Disturbing Presence, which are the other 2 Nurgle warriors. So they stack to a possibility of 3 minuses, which basically brings most teams to a 1 in 6 chance of catching, passing, or intercepting. That is a
Yeah, you do not want to
ridiculous
play
bonus.
around with the ball when you're next to this team.
No, you don't want to be within that disturbing presence and start playing around with the ball. Regeneration. I think this might be our only regeneration team in the league, so I'll explain this for those of you that don't understand it. Regeneration basically makes it you don't get apothecaries for this team. Instead, your players with regeneration just have a 50-50 chance of ignoring anything that happens to them. So if they're like any KOs, any injuries, anything like that, they just have the 50-50 chance of ignoring them. However, they can't have an apothecary use them on them. So it's useful. It can be used as many times throughout the game as you need it to, because it happens every time. So hey, it's more quantity versus quality basically on getting your guys back on the field.
Very good sustain tool. You can pretty much count on this guy being on the field most of the time.
Oh yeah, the chances of you taking him off the field with 9 armor and regeneration, good luck. It's probably not going to happen. Tentacles. I mean, that's not true. Getting him off the field, regeneration will still keep them off the field, but he'll be in the reserves box instead of the KO or injury box. So he'll be back on as soon as possible. Tentacles. That's going to make it harder for you to dodge or leap out of his tackle zone. So anyone that he's near is going to have a real tough time getting away because you have to roll against his strength, and his strength is 5. So
That's a lot.
good luck rolling to get out of his tackle
Seems like
zones.
the theme is you don't want to be anywhere near this
That
guy.
is 100% correct. If you are anywhere near this guy, your only chance is to knock him over with as much power as you possibly can and then get away as quickly as possible. However, speaking of knocking him over, foul appearance. His appearance is so horrible that you have a 1 in 6 chance of just not being able to attack him. You think that you're going to roll to block him, even if you have all the people around him that you need. There's just a 1 in 6 chance that your character will go, I'm not doing that today, and then they just lose their turn. Mighty Blow, almost every big guy has Mighty Blow. Gives you an extra chance to break through armor or injury, depending on what you need it for. And then Nurgle Rot, you're going to see this on every player on this team, which is anytime that someone on this team kills someone on the opposing team, they're just going to come back at the end of the game as a Nurgle Rotter. He literally will get a free lineman at the end of the game.
Very good.
For anyone that he kills using the Nurgle Rot. And everyone on the team has Nurgle Rot, so any deaths that are afflicted by a hit will then be used as you'll see at the bottom, he has multiple Rotters. Those are his linemen. But let's move on to the Pestigors. How do you feel about the Pestigors?
Pestigors are very interesting. I do want to ask you one more question about this Nurgle
sure,
Rot. Yeah. Would you expect a team that has an ability such as this to be a heavy foul team, a heavy bash team?
I mean, I wouldn't say a foul team, but they're not what would be called a bashy team necessarily.
But they're not shy about getting in your face.
No, not at all. They want to be in your face, but they're designed to not necessarily take you out. The design is more to keep you from doing what you want to do. Nurgle, the presence.
Whoa.
Oh, you're right.
What's going on over here?
Oh, it seems like
we've got someone else. We got a guest host in here. We're doing
Is there a match right now?
No, we're doing a pre-cap right now of all the teams. If you want to join us.
A pre-cap? Oh my gosh.
Yeah, just jump in.
Wow. Glad to be on the show.
We got Xanadu. We've already gone over your team, so
okay. Yeah.
You're gonna have to catch the pre-cap when we post it to see what we said about your team and all the horrible things we said about them.
That's okay. Let's just jump right in.
But yeah, just jump in the game, and if you want to jump in the game and get onto the team rosters, we're currently on Periites Pustules, but we're gonna keep going. If you let us know when you're in here, you'll also notice that So as I was saying, they're not necessarily a bash team as much as what's called a control team. What they're going to want to do is make sure your opponent can't do anything they want to do.
Which is pretty much symbolic of Blood Bowl.
Yeah.
In general, I think.
That's fair.
With all the dice rolls, it's pretty hard to do what you want to do in the first
That is
place.
generally fair, and it's even worse when you're playing against Nurgle. Nurgle's job is to make that 10 times worse for you with all of their skills and abilities. So the Pestigors, we're moving on to the Pestigors here. Pretty much a standard player, 6'3", 3'8".
Yeah.
However, they have a special ability called Horns, which means anytime they blitz, they basically gain 1 strength, making them effectively a 4 strength attacker when blitzing.
Which could be very valuable.
Which is great. It's going to give you 2 dice. It's going to give you 2 dice against most opponents, is what it's going to do.
If you're an elf team, stay away from them.
That is definitely true. They're kind of the they're the bread and butter of this team to some degree because they're because we're now going to move on to the Nurgle Warriors, which are the kind of hybrid. Kind of, they're not big guys. They've got 4 strength, but they are strong. They got 4 strength. They also have. They are the other players on the team that have disturbing presence, making any ball movement more difficult. They also have foul appearance, meaning hitting them is a risk in any way, in any shape, form. They also have, as everyone else, have regeneration. So they're going to be the big guys that are kind of forming the line with the Beast of Nurgle. But they, once again, only have 4 movement. So stay away from them. It shouldn't be that difficult.
Well, there's going to be a lot of leeway because this team is capable of having mutations, as you can see. And mutations can do a lot of absolutely crazy things. So you might see a Nurgle warrior with one mutation that, wants people to get around him, and his other Nurgle warrior might have a completely different mutation.
Keep an eye on this team. That is a great point. Keep an eye on this team when you are playing against them after the first few games. The moment they start getting mutations, they're going to be completely different. You're going to have a Pestigore. One Pestigore might have 2 heads. One Pestigore might have 3 arms. The Nurgle warriors might start getting tentacles themselves to meet up with the Beast of Nurgle. Watch out for the mutations. It is going to be extremely important that you know who you're fighting at any given time. And then finally, we've got our Rotters. These are basically the kind of fodder. These are the fodder of the team, exactly. Glad we agreed on that one. The 5 Rotters, not only... the only skills they have are the Nurgle's Rot, and they also have Decay. Decay is an interesting skill. It is a nega trait. It means that they roll twice on the injury table when they're injured, and they take both of those injuries. We lost Xanadu there for this.
We're having some technical difficulties.
I'm sure he'll be back.
Back to the action.
Yeah, but yeah, that's how the Rotters work. The Rotters are 5 movement, 8 armor, 3 strength. They're worse than average player. They're worse than your average player, but they're not bad. 3 strength is 3 strength, 3 agility. The 3 agility for an undead Rotter is pretty solid. Most undead zombies and skeletons have 2 agility to kind of.
I think the main take for this unit would be that it's never going to feel good to attack this guy because he's just going to come back, or he's just going to nothing is really going to stick to this guy, I guess. You really don't care if he goes down.
No. The Rotters are designed to be, as we called them before, fodder. Their job is to get hit, block people, annoy them. Everyone else on the team has their own jobs, but Rotter's job is to just be in the way at all times. As we talked about, the whole point to stop your opponents from doing. Hey, we're doing a pre-cap. If you want to join in on this.
Hey, we got
another guest caster here, Goombomb.
Good job, production.
Yeah, we've been we knew this was going to happen. We're just as these people are coming in, we're just cycling in player after player here.
I'm glad to be here, guys.
Yeah, so if you're looking at the teams, we're just.
So what's your flavor score?
I'd say a solid 6 or 7. Probably.
Okay, hey, that's a good choice. All right, so last thing I'm going to say about this, we've got a very even 2 of every bonus to this: cheerleaders, rerolls, fan factor, and coach assistant. Some might call that a bit of wasted money here and there, but honestly, for the Nurgle team, there's not much else to spend it on.
It seems to be a very modular team. He can build it pretty much however he wants to regarding what rolls he gets for mutations or skill ups or general things or whatever. So it's going to be a very, very interesting lineup. I'm very anxious to see this one in action.
This is a tough team to play. I'm going to say that right now. This might be one of the harder teams to play that we have in the league. So I'm very interested to see how Tim Rem pulls it out in the end, and if he's able to play this team properly from the get-go. Who's going to be your MVP for this team?
I think my MVP for this one has got to go to Perryite himself.
Oh, Perryite?
Because without him, the team just falls apart. He is the king of the Nurgle.
The prince. I think prince is the correct term. But...
He is the prince king of the Nurgle.
Got it.
Look at this guy. He is absolutely a disgusting monstrosity.
That is,
and I love every second.
100% true. I'm gonna throw it out there. My boy, Agar, champion of Periite. He's
Agar it is.
he's gonna be my MVP for this team. We'll see how it goes. All right, we're moving on to Ereptile Dysfunction. This is
Is there an
Baron
easy way to search for this match?
We're not in a match right now. We're doing pre-cap, so we're just looking at the teams.
Okay.
Which you knew because we planned this in advance.
Script.
Yeah.
So we're on Ereptile Dysfunction right now. That's Baronfell 101. So all anyone would have to do is click on the Teams tab and then click on Ereptile Dysfunction to be in the exact same place they need to be.
Sometimes you just can't beat it. What do you think of this all white roster, all gray roster?
It's like a whitish gray with a gold.
Reminds me of Sharks.
With gold flaking, basically. With a gold kind of tinge to it. It's very Street Shark-esque.
Yes.
It does look a little Street Shark.
It's very Street Shark-esque. I love the lizard kind of look to them. I actually kind of like the gold. I'm not sure I'm a fan of the white on light blue that he's gone with here, but I do love the gold. So I think
this
balances
is a team
out.
that we're going to have to see it on the field and exactly the animations that go along with it to get a true appreciation of what this is. So moving on to the roster.
Flavor, I think we got to start with Flavor here. So this is the Ereptile Dysfunction team. A lot of puns in here.
I am frankly surprised he was able to keep them up.
I'm
gonna
go
intended, by the way.
out of a solid 10 out of 10 on this one. My first 10 out of 10.
I was going to go 9.
Okay, hey, you got to do what you got to do.
9.
I'm giving a solid 10 out of 10 here because, as I've said, I've docked points for unoriginality. I've docked points for not keeping the flavor of the team. I've docked points for just using basic things that go along with whatever your team is, but not actually making them clever. To me, there's a couple missteps in this roster in terms of names, but overall, you got Croc Block, you got Hard Knockin', you got Viagraptor.
E-Rex.
Come on, E-Rex.
These are all amazing.
2 Drink, 2 Skink. I mean, some of these don't necessarily match up exactly with the team theme, but I don't care. It is cleverness from top to bottom, and then you got Littlefoot at the bottom, which is just a reference to The Land Before Time, and I accept that as well.
That's nothing wrong with that.
All right, so now let's get on to the team itself. So we're going to start at the top, as we always do. Croc Block, that's your Croxagore. This is the big guy. He's got 5 strength, 6 movement. 6 movement on a big guy is solid. You're also going to notice that he seems to be exactly the same as the Tame Bear, and that's because he is. They are literally the exact same character with a different model and animations.
Oh, there you go.
Gotta give the skin to the Croc, though.
Oh, 100%. As much as I love the Tamed Bear, the Croxagore is a monster.
The bear will remember that.
Prehensile tail is going to make it tough for people to dodge out of his tackle zone, which is exactly what you want to do to get away from a big guy, so that's a great thing. Bonehead and Loner, though, as we have seen in the past, can be a serious problem for certain teams when you try to use the Croxagore for important actions. So generally, I would use the Crocs the same way I use the Tame Bear, which would be to push into the enemy, hold him in place, and beat the shit out of him.
Yeah, I think Croxagore is absolutely going to keep his team in line. He is the figurehead of this team. He is going to make sure all the other reptiles around him do what they do best, or he might eat them. We don't know.
We'll have to get back to that later because unfortunately that's not actually something he can do, but that might be something we could see from a later team.
Oh,
literally eating their own players. Well, let's keep the mystery for now.
All right.
We're going to move on to the Sauruses, which you will immediately see have absolutely no skills to start with, which is not great. However, they are 6 movement, 4 strength units. These are your front line that you do not want to mess with. Sauruses are great linemen for what they are. They are just meant to stop the opposing team to be able to push in and get to your skinks. The skinks are going to run with the ball, the Sauruses are going to block for you, and at the very beginning, the Sauruses are going to have a tough time without block. They really need block. Every level up for these Sauruses, I would not be surprised to see block on every single one of them.
They do start out with a higher armor than usual too. That 9
Yeah.
is really gonna give
9
them
for
some staying
Crocs.
power.
9 for Crocs and Sauruses means you're unlikely to lose your Crocs and Sauruses. However, on the other side, we have Skinks. Skinks are the exact opposite of Sauruses. They have 8 movement. 8 movement, which is an insane number. That's a War Dancer speed right there. But you get it on every Skink. And you also get dodge. By default, you get dodge, which means they are going to be moving in and out of these fights and getting the ball, picking it up, running around. They are not going to be easy to hold down. They also have Stunty, which is not a nega trait. It's actually a benefit and a disadvantage at the same time. It allows them to easily dodge in and out of bad situations. So normally, if you're to dodge into a bad spot where a bunch of enemies are, it would make the dodge harder. However, for someone with Stunty, it's only ever the standard dodge roll. It doesn't get any harder depending on how many enemies are in the way. So, Stunty characters are great at running into tight spots and getting in and out. The problem is if they ever get hit, they have a much better chance of getting killed, or at least injured.
And that's really going out here because they have, what, 2 strength here and armor value of 7? These
7
guys
armor.
cannot take a punch.
They're going to be injured, and because of the way that Stunty works, a roll of 7 and 9 on the injury table after any modifiers is applied is a KO and badly hurt. So basically, they just make it, injuries are just worse for them in general. They are more likely to get badly hurt. They're more likely to get KO'd. They're more likely to be taken off the field than any other character that we're going to see out here generally. But they're real tough to pin down. But if you can pin them down, take them out. That's the hint I'm going to throw out there against the Lizardmen is if you can take out the Skinks, if you look back at those Sauruses and the Crocs, 1 agility across the board. Without Skinks, this team cannot pick up the ball. They cannot do anything without those Skinks. So if you can get rid of those Skinks, good luck getting through those Sauruses, but if you can get rid of them, that is a 1 agility team across the board other than those Skinks. So they have very defined roles, and they will not be deviating from them.
And in a league like this, I think very defined roles could be an asset to a team because it makes it very clear what you should be doing. You don't want your sources picking up the ball. You don't want your Skinks getting and just putting itself in harm's way. So we'll see how this team goes along the season, but I'm very happy and anxious to see this team in action, one of our more flavorful teams in the league. Who is your MVP?
Oh, boy. I think I got to throw my MVP at my boy Viagraptor. I love that
Took
name.
the words right out of my mouth.
I love that name. I think Viagraptor is going to be my MVP. Is it going to be yours as well? Are we
It
going to
is
have
mine as well.
Our first combined MVP in Viagraptor. He better be out there. He's going to die in the first game.
I don't know. I feel
I
like
got something to pick him up.
Block is really going to be carrying here.
I mean,
He's gonna be
Crocblock's,
keeping
yeah.
the little ones in line.
Your MVP is Crocblock. That makes sense to me. He's a solid choice. He is the big guy. You know, you're generally going to see the big guy do some work, if not at least staying on the field. So, all right, we're going to move on to Ganon's Gaggle with the team coach B-Dubs. That's for the glory of the Gerudo King. So this is a Zelda-based team for those of you that
Very strong coach.
That's to be seen, I suppose. I think.
Unproven. Okay.
I think.
The
I'm
first
not...
thing we're seeing here is the obvious size difference from the previous. That
Oh,
was
yeah.
just a solid wall of flesh. You can actually see the sky behind these people.
Yeah, there's a lot of empty space between these players. Very thin players. But I'm not saying. I don't want to throw shade out there before the season really starts or anything like that. I'm just saying I haven't seen anything from this coach. I haven't heard anything really from this coach on the Dark Elves front, so we're gonna have to see after the first game what he has to show us. But just off the bat,
strategic. You don't want to get your strategies and just have them in the wind for everybody to see. You want to keep things very close to the vest.
Hey, that's fair. I appreciate that. So this is the Dark Elf team. How do you feel about the flavor for this team, guys?
I do like the Dark Elf themes. Looking at the names right now, I'm just gonna say it's good.
It's a Zelda theme. He's playing it straight Zelda, and he's got he's got that thing running pretty strong.
Yeah, it's I mean it's a lot of Ocarina of Time, villains or enemies, I guess would be the way to put it. He's gone for the dark, people, because he's playing dark elves. I get where he's going for it. Ganon's gaggle. Overall, I think I said I have the same hesitance that I did with a few of the other teams. But what are your flavor numbers on this one?
I'm going in middle of the road, 5.
Okay, Goom.
Yeah, I guess I'll go middle of the road too. That sounds about reasonable.
Yeah, I have to agree. I'm gonna go 5 as well. I like the theme and everything, but I think that just going I like the theme. I think it's fine.
Oh, nothing to be
But nothing,
ashamed about.
no, not at all.
I mean, I can't throw shade as we may come up to.
I'd say bordering on 6, but generally I'm gonna put it out there on 5. I think 5 is fair.
All right, and running through the roster real quick, it looks like we have 4 blitzers, 1 runner, and the rest would be linemen.
Yep. So, so Mose, I mean, at this point, how do you feel about, I think it's a pretty simplistic team overall here from what we can see.
It's very simplistic. I'm looking at 2 rerolls, but I'm also looking at blitzers with, that is block, correct?
That is block.
That is block.
That's very, very strong for a out-of-the-box team.
4 blitzers is good.
7 movement. That's pretty good.
That's
That's pretty mobile, yeah.
That is a very well-statted person.
Yeah, 4 agility
with block.
This whole team is really just solid stats across the board. Solid movement, all 3 strength, all 4 agility. Only 1 person on the team has an armor value of less than 8.
That's why they cost 100,000 though.
That is fair. That is
a pretty penny.
This is what you're looking at elves. Elves never have a player on the team that you look at and say this is our weak link. Elves do not have a weak link. That is the benefit of playing an elf team. I mean, you're always going to have everyone has 4 agility. Everyone has 3 strength. Everybody has at least 6 movement. Most have 7. This is actually a slower elf team. With 6 and 7, that's a slower elf team. And you're seeing block on about a third of the team there. Like, that's solid.
That's a very solid lineup.
They could just absolutely rip through a team.
Yeah.
That gives you a little bit of flexibility instead of, you don't have to just be evasive. You can get in there.
So what you're going to see here is actually the runner has an ability we haven't seen yet called Dump Off. This is not a standard ability. I believe this runner for the Dark Elves is the only player that starts with this ability in the game. It is a skill that allows you to make a quick pass when he gets blocked, if he has the ball. So basically, if someone runs up to this player and tries to blitz him or hit him to the ground while he has the ball, the coach is able to call for that player to immediately make a dump-off pass to a very nearby teammate to immediately pass it away before the ball gets knocked out of his hands.
That could throw a lot of teams off balance.
Oh yeah,
not expecting
something
like that coming.
If you have to declare the blitz to go get him.
Exactly. If you have to blitz the player with the ball and then go get someone else who has the ball afterwards, that's deadly. That can be extremely tough.
I see this being a very scary team. If a situation happens where the runner has the ball, all elves are up, and blitzers in front of them, that is just terrifying.
Yeah. This is the second of our 2 elf teams, and so we are seeing this is another one of our stronger early teams. But once again, I will say with 8 armor, they are much less likely to be pulled off the field than the Wood Elves. The Wood Elves are obviously a much squishier team and have to take much more care to not be completely ripped to shreds by a bashier team. Dark Elves are definitely designed to be a semi-bashy elf style team, a little bit slower, a little less abilities, things like that. But overall, it's going to be a tough team to take down if you're not careful. Like you said, with the block, the dump off, everything. So, any final thoughts, MVPs?
Bongo bongo.
I can't argue with that. Goom?
I'm looking at Girahim, and that one is, I don't know if you want to call that the MVP, but that's definitely the one to watch out for.
Okay, that's your MVP. We
we
get one choice, so you're going to call that your MVP, no matter whether you call it that or not. I'm going to throw a curveball out here, and I'm going to say Skulltula. He's out there. Nobody's looking at him. He came into the league late. Nobody was expecting him to do anything, and I'm putting my money on him. I say Sculptula is the man of this team.
That's right. The walk-on freshman of the group.
So yeah, we'll move on from here. Ganon's Gale. We'll move on to Valhalla Pillagers with the coach Pile Up.
Very good coach.
We've got their thing here. Raping and pillaging aren't the only ways to score. Looks like the game wasn't a huge fan of the word rape being in here. So.
Well, I mean, some people just censor words just because.
I'm pretty sure Blood Bowl doesn't like that word.
I mean, that's totally fair.
But that is an extreme. Put on your sunglasses, because we're looking at a real white, pale team out here. That sun is going to be in your eyes the entire time. It's a lot of skin.
It's up there with the Amazons.
So keep that in your mind. Keep that in mind that you said that. That's a lot of skin, because once you look at the team roster, you'll realize that the majority of this team has 7 armor, which is the same amount as the Wood Elves. Because, once again, if you look back at the actual thing, you'll notice they're not actually wearing very much armor. They're Norse,
no, they've got
and they're proud.
They've got the bikini armor going on there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, this is...
I'll tell you what they do have. They do have block.
Oh, they have a lot of block. So before getting ahead of ourselves, flavor scores here. We're gonna look at this. We are looking at the Valhalla Pillagers. How is...
I really like it.
I like the names. They all definitely sound Norse, except for Scott Howard and
I'm going 7.
7. See, my problem here is I don't know. We've got a couple in here that I'm a fan of, right? So we've got Marshmallow. I like that. That's his Yeti. I think it's a fun name. You know, it's a little bit of a...
Did he misspell Marshmallow?
I don't believe so.
Did he?
I couldn't.
No. Oh yeah. There's. I think you can spell it either way. I believe.
Okay. I was always more familiar with the ALLOW.
Oh, possible.
Oh. No. Mellow is yellow. Maybe.
That might be the Fortnite.
You're right. That is exactly what that is, actually. Yeah. Marshmallow is the correct spelling. Marshmallow is the Fortnite guy. Yeah. The musician. I didn't even think about that. Yeah. Okay. I don't know which he was going for, and I don't care. I still kind of like the name. So, but I believe, and I could be wrong, but I believe about half to 2/3 of these names are auto-generated.
It could be.
Really? I believe all of the linemen are auto-generated Norse names, and everyone that is a berserker or
anything
above.
with a special character.
Yes.
I'm going to assume.
Harrison Nord, I love the name.
I thought that was really good effort on his part. I thought he went through individually.
No, I believe those are I believe those are default Norse names. So I'm gonna say, because he only put in the effort for everyone but the linemen, I like the names he put in that aren't the linemen. The linemen being default names for right now, unless they get changed. My score is gonna be a 2 because he just didn't put in the effort.
Ooh.
Yeah, I was gonna say 4.
Fair enough.
I'll go 6. I still like it altogether.
6. I don't like an auto-generated name. I'm just throwing it out there. I think if you're gonna play in this league, you put some effort into those names. I like that he at least put in effort for his positionals, up to the berserker, but I need those linemen to have their own names. I don't care.
We could see.
I would give him extra 2 points. He can, in my opinion, I gave him the 2. I'd jump him up to a 4 just by default, just by naming them. They could be named John 1, John 2, John 3, all the way down. I'd still.
I think maybe I just like the overall concept of Norse warriors fighting for their glory and honor.
Oh, I understand 100%.
That I really
put some fucking effort in. That's all I'm saying.
All right, so let's go through.
Right. Start with the Yeti. How do you feel about this Yeti?
He's a character.
He's
got movement of 5 for a big guy.
It's not bad. 5 is solid. It's not as good as the Crocs, but it's overall pretty solid. Only 8 armor for a big guy is lower than average, but 9 is pretty default for a big guy. But 8's not bad.
See him get beat up a little bit, but I just have a feeling people aren't going to want to bash.
Claw is exactly what I wanted to talk about here. So he has disturbing presence, which we only saw on the Nurgle. That's the one that makes it so that it's harder to pass, catch, and intercept around him. So he's actually a tough customer when it comes to being in your way. He's going to really throw off any plans you might have. But Claw is the big one here. Claw is the one that I want to talk about because Claw means that your armor does not matter. If he rolls an 8, when he tries to hit you, he breaks armor. Whether you have 8 armor, 9 armor, 10 armor, it doesn't matter. If he rolls an 8 with claw, he pierces your armor and he knocks you the fuck into an injury or stun of some kind. So that's big.
I believe we see that on Skaven teams. Am I correct on that?
On mutated Skaven, any mutation can bring in a claw. So any of the teams that have mutation to excess can bring in claw, which is an extremely good way to deal with heavily armored opponents. It basically means that every opponent you fight has 7 armor, which is reasonably low.
There you go. Yeah, pretty good character all around, but that's why he is worth 140,000.
Claw's very dangerous. He also has Frenzy, which we've talked about, which some of the other players have as well, and Wild Animal, which is a nega trait we haven't seen yet, I believe, which basically means that he has that 1 out of 6 chance of doing nothing, but only when he blitzes. If he's not blitzing, he has a 50-50 chance of doing nothing. So that's Wild Animal. It's not a good nega trait to have, but overall, tough customer.
I believe it also works with block as well. Blocking or blitzing.
Yes, I believe you're correct. Sorry, yes.
Yep.
Yeah, block or blitz. Yes, sorry, I did mean that. Yes, if he's hitting someone,
as long as it involves punching.
If it involves hitting someone, he's good to go. But you can also blitz on your turn technically without hitting anyone. You can activate a blitz and then move without actually hurting anyone. So that is also something to think about. It's not a good idea, but it's something you can do.
It's a waste of the blitz.
It is.
But
we're definitely going to see this guy take some people out. I anticipate, if I had to make a prediction, this guy has the most armor breaks by season's end.
I mean, that makes sense with Claw. I'm not gonna, but I would say I'm gonna fight against that only because while I think that big guys are good with that stuff, I also think they're so likely to just screw up and get in your way sometimes with this kind of stuff. I think that he'll have less than expected. I think he won't have I don't think he'll be the biggest hitter, damager, killer by the end of the season. I don't know who will be, but I don't put my money on this Yeti. But we'll move on. I don't have it. Ulfwerners. I have no idea how to pronounce that word. Ulfwerner.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that sounds about right.
Ulfwerner. They have Frenzy, they have 4 Strength, and they have 2 Agility. They've basically they're a standard character who has traded 1 Agility for 1 Strength, which is a great trade because you just don't have to use them as Agility players. Having that extra strength is solid. They don't have any nega traits.
Very specialized.
They have Frenzy. They don't have any nega traits. The only problem is they don't start with block.
Yep. Particularly, the agility isn't that big of a deal considering your linemen also have 3 agility.
Yep.
So they want to be the ones to pick up the ball and do agility-based moves.
Oh yeah. You're never gonna have you're not gonna have your Ulfs picking up that ball, passing it downfield. That's not their job.
Nope.
Berserker is our next on the list. He also has Frenzy. This is the last of our Frenzies on the team. He also has Jump Up, which means he can actually move his full movement after getting up on the same turn. Most players lose about half their movement. He can move his full movement. He also can roll dice. I believe a 50-50 chance of if he's on the ground next to an opponent, he can roll his dice to roll a 50-50 chance of actually being able to block without wasting a blitz while getting up and attacking. Yeah,
pretty good.
It's a solid player. Jump Up is a great skill for any players that you want to be able to hit on any given turn and move around. It's a really good skill. He also has block like the rest of his team. All the humanoid players on this team have block from this point forward, and they're all linemen. Standard 6-3-3, but that's 7. 7 armor's low. This is a team that's meant to hit with that block and with that Frenzy, and they have 7 armor. That is going to be dangerous.
It seems like it's a snowball team. It'll go one way or the other.
Yeah.
We do see, I think this might be the first team that has 2 rerolls, but they start out with an Apothecary.
They did. He did start out with an Apothecary. I mean, which makes sense. 7 armor.
Given 7 armor, yeah.
You're gonna want that Apothecary. 2 rerolls. That's solid. I mean, 3 might have been more useful. Oh, getting some feedback here. Oh,
we're having some technical.
As scripted, Xanadu's back in here.
Here we go.
Although I was getting some feedback for a second. That was also part of the script.
Are we good now?
Yeah, we're good now.
Okay.
We got everybody. We got half the league in here now.
Oh.
Almost. All right, so we're gonna move off the Valhalla Pillagers. I think that's. Oh no, sorry. We gotta do MVPs. Sorry. Yep.
Peace.
My
MVPs.
MVP is going to be Scott Howard, which is Todd Howard's brother. I think that he is jealous of his brother and has just going to wreak havoc.
Skyrim belongs to the Nords, and Scott Howard is all about that.
I gotta say, I'm a fan of Harrison Nord.
I can't disagree. And even though I don't know what you said that, I'm gonna go with Spike. I think that Ulf is gonna do the work out there. I think Spike's gonna be in there. I think he's gonna be the one frenzying people off the pitch, getting in there, using his 4 strength to his advantage. I think he's gonna be the big playmaker out there. So our next team.
Starting to round out the end of our league, we have the Grecian Gooms. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Goons, I believe. Goons, not Gooms.
Yes,
Goons.
it is the Goons.
Just be yourself.
Coached by Goombomb himself. Good coach. Good coach.
Now we wouldn't. Nobody here would have any sort of biases towards this team, right? There's no.
No, I'm completely neutral here. But
exactly.
I think I better let my opinion take a backseat. Maybe we'll get Xanadu in here to take my place for this one. Just get him back into the rotation.
Yeah, we'll see how he figures into this. So we're gonna start out with our usual thoughts here. Mose, how do you feel about the flavor of this team? It's the Grecian Goons. It's a Greek, almost mythological sense here.
I am a sucker for any sort of mythology.
I am as well.
I'm seeing Nyx, I'm seeing Thanatos, I'm seeing a Nidhogg for me, and I honestly, I'm in love with it. I'm torn between 7 or 8. So if you say one of those, I'm on board.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm in the same camp. The only problem I have here, which is a minor problem, I'm just going to nitpick here for a second. It is the Grecian goons, and we're seeing some Egyptian and some Norse mythology thrown in there with the Greek mythology. So this is a mythology-based team, not a Greek mythology-based team. Although he was going clearly for the alliteration with Grecian goons, and we all understand where he's going with it. I'm going to lock it in there with a solid 7. I'm not going to give him the 8 because, once again, I'm going to throw it out there. No specific cleverness to each name, just a good overall theme.
Yeah, we are still clearly in Flavor Town.
Oh, yeah.
We have not left.
Yes. Flavor Town we are in the station for Flavor Town. The diners, drive-ins, and dives are all around us. So let's look at this real fast. We've got.
It looks like a very straightforward roster. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 Chaos Warriors, and the rest Beastmen.
Yes, Chaos is a simplistic lineup when it comes to choices. You only get Chaos Warriors, Beastmen. You can have a Minotaur, although it's tough to start with because it's expensive. And if you want all your Chaos Warriors, you're just not going to get the Minotaur out there. It's just not going to be monetarily feasible is the problem.
Mm-hmm. Well, if these Chaos Warriors do work, I'm looking at 9 armor value, 8 armor value, lots of strength on these guys, decent movement. You might not need one to start out with. This could be a very good lineup.
Look, a lot of people don't like the Minotaur. I'm a fan of the Minotaur lore-wise, and because it's a Minotaur, and who doesn't love a Minotaur? The problem is, like I said, it doesn't really fit into the team very well. You already have 4 strength, 9 armor, 5 movement characters. Is a 5 strength wild animal loner really going to increase your team value? Maybe if you really need that extra big guy in there, maybe you pick one up later in the game, but I think it's the right move right now not having one. The real problem that you're going to see with this team and Chaos in general is that you look at those Chaos Warriors and what's the problem? What are they missing?
Any sort of skills.
Skills in general. Block is a great skill for those characters to start with, but skills in general, they are out there with 5 movement, no skills. But they do have 3 agility with 4 strength, so that's still a solid player. Now, something you might not
a lot of movement coming off of this team. I mean,
it's not terrible, but you don't have any movers. You don't have anybody that is specifically designed to move that ball down the field. You don't have anyone specifically designed for anything on this team. This team is designed to be a blank slate that every level up is going to give you a mutation, and you use those mutations to just make a varied team as you level up. This team is like I said, blank slate is the name of the game for this team.
The mutations will define and make or break this team, depending on what roles he gets, what mutations happen to occur, and whether or not he can utilize those mutations to the full effect of what they turn out to be.
Yeah, you'll see some people with some mutations that maybe won't help him out if he's not playing the right teams or not playing or not making the right choices. But overall, I think it's going to be interesting to see where this team goes. I'm more interested in the future of this team than the present of this team. There's not much to say other than the one thing I will say is this team, every player on this team, when attacking, has a effective strength of 4 because of those horns.
That's a lot.
That is a solid team.
That is 5 people with 4 strength.
Yes.
All being able to punch.
Every turn they have an effective 5 players with 4 strength. That is solid. Most teams, I mean, sure, you get the lizard men who have, I believe, 5 Sauruses who no, it is 6 Sauruses. 6 Sauruses that have 4 strength as well, but they're not going to get those mutations. They're not going to have the this team doesn't have the downside of having those skinks that are so easy to kill and take out and stuff like that. So we'll see. I think Chaos is a tough team to start out with. We're going to see a lot of changes, a lot of future to this. So Xanadu, you over there, how you feeling about this team?
You know what? I'm first of all, I like the strength on this team. I'm not a fan of the movement. Obviously, being a Wood Elf coach, I like to be able to move around the pitch, but I think they're going to struggle to move the ball around. But one thing that I am really excited for, really looking forward to watching this team, is the injuries, the KOs, the stuns. I'm excited to watch this game because I think the opponents are going to have a hard time keeping their players upright unless they have a similarly bashy team. But I'm really excited about the strength of this team, and I'm excited to see if Goom can use them correctly.
See, I agree with you. I think that it's going to be both ways in that direction, though. I think on offense, I think this team is deadly. But then I think on defense, this team is in trouble to some degree. Like, when it is not their turn, they have 0 block, they have 0 dodge, they have no movement, like, bonuses, and their only skills only benefit them on a blitz. So they have literally 0 skills to use in a defensive stance, and once they use their blitz, they have no skills at all. So it's going to be an interesting use of their abilities, and I think it's going to require a little bit of finesse to make this team really, really shine, especially in the early times. So we'll see where they go. But MVPs, who's got some MVPs out here?
Well, for me, Thanatos is the god of death, I believe, and I cannot wait to see this guy next to a war dancer. Nothing would make me happier than to see this guy.
I don't blame you on that one. I'm hoping that the Thanatos name isn't a curse against him as the god of death. Me, I'm out here. I'm thinking so. I'm actually gonna throw out my my MVP towards Orthrus, a little known brother of Cerberus, only a 2-headed dog, not guarding the gates of Hades.
Hey, that means he's got something to prove.
So, but I'm a fan of Orthrus as a character, and I'm a fan of this character having those horns. I'm hoping that maybe during a mutation for this character, he might get 2 heads as a mutation, really just rounding out the character in a solid way. Then he could be a runner, hopefully. So we'll see where it goes. Anybody else?
Yeah, I'm taking Ishtar.
It's a solid
Can't
choice,
forget
too.
about Ishtar.
You know what? I'm taking Ishtar. I think he's gonna be a surprise. He's not one of the Chaos Warriors, but I think he's gonna be a valuable member of this team, and we'll see what happens.
I gotta say, normally I'd say either Nyx or Thanatos, but I think Lachesis is gonna pull it away for me. I think he's gonna come up from behind.
All right. Well,
and there it is.
All right. So that's...
And moving on to our penultimate team, we have the Orcspendables by Coach Sir Jumpney. Excuse me. Good coach. Good
Sounds
coach.
like
we are the disease, and there is no cure.
Seen an orc team come out.
That's right. This is gonna be an orc team.
Who did the Orcspendables draw as their first matchup?
Erectile dysfunction.
That's right. It's going to be playing against Baronfell 101, Erectile Dysfunction, sorry.
That might be your game of the week right there.
Maybe.
I mean, game of the week.
Right.
I think game of the week may or may not have already happened. That's up for debate. We'll see.
All right. So, Mose, what do you think about the team's creativeness?
Let me take a look at some of these character names. I'm loving Gary Busey.
Oh, yeah. That's a very solid right there.
I mean, flavor, honestly, we are in the heart of Flavor Town right here. This is Guy Fieri times a million.
I mean, John Claw Slam Dam.
This is as close.
Power,
this is as close to a 10 as it gets without it being a 10. So I got to give it a 9.
Yeah, I would agree.
It's a
9.
10. It's a 10.
Okay.
I'd have to agree with Xanadu. Biases aside, this is a 10. Hands down. We're not getting any better than this.
I like the effort.
We're seeing some serious action movie references in here, some good puns, overall theme, solid. I think it doesn't get much better than that.
Moving on to the team roster, it looks like we have quite a bit of characters here. 1 troll, 1 goblin, 1 thrower, 4 blitzers, and the rest black orcs. That's a lot of different characters you gotta be.
I'm gonna stop you right there and call you out on your racism.
This is an
I'm sorry. African American.
One of the most interesting characters here is that troll loner up there. He's got the trait always hungry.
Gary Busey, always hungry.
Yeah. So.
He's always hungry.
So we're seeing the troll. The troll is very similar to the Nurgle beast of Nurgle, in that it has a lot of skills. Goom, did you want to go over any of those skills?
I mean, I was just going to go over always hungry. The 1 in 6 chance of just when you're going to throw your teammates, maybe you don't.
So always hungry is a little bit more complicated than that. It is a 1 in 6 chance that your troll tries to eat the goblin, and then a 1 in 6 chance that the goblin does not escape. So it's actually a 1 in 36 that the goblin gets eaten. However, that first 1 in 6 failure does mean that the throw does not happen. So it's a 1 in 6 chance of a throw being a failure, and a 1 in 36 chance of a goblin being straight up eaten by the troll. You also have the throw teammate ability, obviously, because there's no point to always hungry.
Does the goblin die in that scenario?
If he gets eaten, yes, he is immediately dead and is never coming back.
Interesting.
The throw
we only
teammate.
have 1 goblin on your
That's right.
team.
The throw teammate ability allows you to throw any player with the right stuff skill, which is only the goblins on the orc team, and it allows him to just be thrown anywhere on the field. To some degree, it's a short pass, but it's still a pretty solid ability. Mighty Blow, as most of them have. He has the unfortunate, really stupid ability. However, he will generally be surrounded by teammates and usually have the goblin flanking him for possible throwing abilities, so it shouldn't come into play too much. And then, yes, of course, we only have the 1 goblin. The rest of the team, I think, generally has a lot of variation and usefulness to them, but more than 1 goblin kind of lowers it.
The rest of the team is very solid. All have an armor of 9, strength of 3 and 4.
Mm-hmm.
They're a little bit slow, especially the black orcs with only a movement of 4. But otherwise, they look like they can take some punishment.
Yeah, you're gonna see the runner. You're gonna see the thrower is more than likely going to be the one handling the ball, as he has sure hands and pass. So that makes it, he basically gets free rerolls on any passing attempts and any pickup attempts he has. So he's going to be the one handling the ball more often than not. You get 4 blitzers, solid, generally better than average players with block by default. And then you're also seeing the black orcs. The black orcs are basically the Sauruses. Slower, but slightly better agility versions of Sauruses running down the field, these black orcs. They're your big, meaty front line. Their job is to get in the way. Unfortunately, they are unskilled to start with. They're probably going to be looking for skills like block and things like that to keep them on the field and upright at all times. But yeah, a lot of this is going to come down to just generally good play from an orc coach. It's a solid team with some good variation. Like you said, it's got multiple different types of units. But overall, yeah, it's just going to come down to being able to use those units to the best of their ability, and hopefully, getting a jump on the enemy and keeping them in check.
Yeah, I think we're going to see a lot of other teams in this league struggle going up against an orc team like this, just because they might not be familiar with all these different class types. So as far as MVP goes, mine would be going to Gary Busey. I don't think he's going to be heavy on the stat chart. I don't think you're going to see a lot of touchdowns. You're not going to see a lot of crazy plays out of him. But he's just going to be a nuisance right in this smack center of the field. Motorcycle coming in, accidents everywhere. It's going to be carnage.
I know what you're saying, and I do agree with that to a certain extent, but I think Blocky Balboa is going to be in there throwing the punches when this team really needs it to throw a punch. I think Blocky's going to come through for him.
I agree with both of that, but I got to throw out my MVP out there to my boy Donnie Donablitz. He's they call him the Bear Orc, and he's going to be out there knocking some fools' heads in left and right. Blitzer with that block ability.
Certainly a team to watch. Now, rounding out the very last part of this league. Last but not least, we have Death by Snoo Snoo.
She ain't a lady unless she 280. Unfortunately, as far as Amazons go, they're a bit thin, I feel like, for...
And a bit short, too. I feel like they could be about 1.25 times size in all directions.
Yeah, they don't look like they're 280.
I mean, I guess it's a question of what's the scale on this.
Oh, yeah,
tough
true.
to tell. But but overall, from what we've seen, I mean, that's nothing against this team specifically, but I feel like they could have been rounded out a bit more. All right, so yeah, this is a sidearms team. We're gonna be seeing the first thing you're gonna notice before we even get into the big thing for this team is dodge. Every single player has dodge.
Dodge is pretty good. I'd rank in second among skills, only next to block.
Yeah, that's a very solid skill to have across all of your players, not even needing to worry about it. And then a good portion of them also have block.
Yeah, those are one of the best units I've seen. 6-3-3-7 block dodge.
Yeah. Before we go any further, we got to talk about that. We got to talk about the elephant in the room. That's a 1 flavor. It's 1 for flavor. That is a team.
Like the team name.
That is a team that has put only effort into. The team name is fine, if a bit generic and obvious for an Amazon team. I have no problem with it. I'm not docking it points for it, but I'm not giving it points for it. But that is a team full of generically named, auto-populated names. I am not okay with that.
You know what?
That is a 1.
I hear what you're saying.
There's no reason.
I'm gonna say 3, only because in a league situated with things like goblins and mummies and orcs and crazy things, we have Amazons. That takes some absolute brass balls to pull off. So I'm gonna say 3 on flavor.
I'm gonna give him a solid 2. I like the name and the motto, but I think you're absolutely right. There was no effort here with the names, none at all.
I mean, we could see it before season
I want to see.
start.
I was going to say there is still time before his game is to be played. Only 2 teams have been locked in so far. All of these things could change slightly. I'm really hoping that this team and the Norse team put in the effort,
shit together,
put the time in to make some player names. Just really put the effort into China. Just make these characters unique.
It makes a big difference when spectating.
It makes a difference when spectating, and honestly, it's going to make you really feel like a real team. Because when you're looking at these teams, I mean, look at the number of These are all just the same name. The first 6 characters are the same name.
Yeah.
There is no difference.
Literally 2 Archippes.
This is like a Dostoevsky novel, if I've ever
there's
just so many of the same alliteration. Jeez Louise.
Brothers Karamazov
there are
up in
3
this bitch.
Archippes.
Yeah, this is nonsensical. How this will be impossible to spectate for. No one will know what characters are which. There's no way to root for or against any of these players. I'm heavily against this. I would give it a 0 if I could, but 1 is the lowest on my scale that I would.
That's harsh.
I'm just saying.
What's up with number 7 there?
That's
Is that a
yes,
given
it
name?
is. It is. No, it is. It is an automated name. I've seen the Amazon teams with some interesting names in that regard. But yes, that is still an automated name. It just happens to be more interesting than most of the others. But we'll go into it anyway. So again, I'm gonna I'm going to throw this out there. So this is kind of backwards for most of the way the other teams, but it is still at least in some form of order, although I would say that you generally want to put your most important characters at the top, least important characters at the bottom, but that's not something to worry about right now. Just splitting hairs. However, we'll start with the line women since they're here. We're starting with the line women. We just have 5 of them, and they've got dodge. They're
very solid for 50,000. That's really good.
It's a great deal. You're definitely
good
getting
movement,
definitely
good
getting
strength,
benefit.
good agility.
Yeah, that armor of
very
7.
generalist team.
Armor 7 on every single player is, as we've said before, it's a little bit low. It's dangerous, but honestly, that dodge. The dodge is going to make it a little bit harder for them to get hit. It's going to make them a little bit harder to get damaged. It's going to make it easier for them to get out of bad situations. So, armor 7's not great, but in this team, it's not the worst thing in the world. So, and then we move on to our blitzers. They have Blodge. There are 4 characters on the team, block and dodge. We're getting Blodge on 4 characters to start the game. Those we were talking before about how War Dancers, 140k I believe per player, or 120 to 140 somewhere in that range per player for the Blodge with. They don't have the agility 4 or the 8 movement, but that Blodge is the most important part of those characters, and it's going to be a nightmare for teams to early on, without tackle, without your kind of like benefits of skills and other things like that. Wrestle, these characters, these blitzers are going to be a real hassle for most teams to deal with. Unskilled teams are going to be really, really, really annoyed by these blitzers.
Yeah, I could definitely see my team having trouble with these guys.
Yeah. Then we're going to move on to the catchers. We've got 2 catchers and a thrower. The catchers have the catch ability. The throwers have the pass ability. Just gives them a free reroll on catches and throws. So these are a very kind of similar to the way that the orcs are. They have definitive roles to who's going to be throwing, who's going to be catching, who's going to be blocking, who's going to be setting up on the line, things like that. They don't have any extra strength. They don't have any real ability to, other than their blitzers, they don't have really any ability to be bashy. But they're going to be a tough team to pin down. That dodge on every single player is a real benefit to messing up and positional readjustments. Like, you're going to see a lot of situations where he's not going to be burning those team rerolls because those dodges are giving him free rerolls. Like, most teams are going to need to use those rerolls, but he's not. And his team and his players are going to have that extra 1/6 chance of not being knocked down on every block.
Great point. I think it also goes well to say that this might be the only team that has the exact same stat line for all of its characters. It is 6-3-3-7 across the board, which might be very good for a newer player who might get confused bringing this character over here because he knows every character can go 6. He knows every character has 3 strength. Mm-hmm. That could be a very useful tool for, especially in the beginning of the league when things might get jammed up a little bit.
On the other hand, it might work the other way where you need to, because, you've got your thrower there. You need to make sure that your thrower is throwing to your catcher. And if they all look the same, you may mix up, which you want to use for which purpose.
Yeah, hopefully that's something they'll be able to. It's almost as if the names themselves could be a helper while playing the game to know who your catchers are if you actually know the difference between the catcher's name of Aganape and Alaganape and Archipe and Archipe, and if they all have the exact same name, it might be real easy to throw the ball to the wrong person.
Very true.
With that in mind, I think my MVP is going to be Archipe because I got about a 3 in 11 chance of it being the MVP.
Mose?
You know what? I'm going to Archipe too.
All right, well, I'm not going to give an MVP because fuck that.
Ooh.
Yeah, no MVP for this team.
The big X.
I'm going to give an MVP to this team. I will give an MVP to this team as soon as they name their players. Even if he only names one of them, I will give that player the MVP. But I'm really hoping we see a full squad of names on this player. I want this team to be named fully, and I want the Norse team to finish off naming their players as well. I know you guys said a little bit. I know you guys had a little bit of, the Norse names are kind of interesting. They can still be interesting while still being unique and actually readable. And I think that's a much better team at that point. So I'm withholding my MVP nomination until further notice.
Okay. That's fair.
That wraps up the recap for all of our teams, taking a quick look back at our 10 teams that are going to
That's
be
right.
participating in our Blood Bowl League this season, I think we have a very strong roster all about who are your guys' favorite teams that you want to see in action right now.
All right, not counting ourselves, I assume.
Obviously, yes.
Because I mean, I think we all know that my team's the best. So I'm gonna say I'm up against Ereptile Dysfunction this week. We're gonna be playing our game some point this week. I definitely consider them to be one of the teams that I'm most interested in seeing. Lizardmen are a very powerful team even early on, so I'm interested to see how he plays them. I think it's one of the teams that I'm most I wouldn't say worried about, but definitely most interested to see how it ends up working out. So that's one. But if I was going to give, I'm going to say it. I mean, it's a bit of a cheap move now because technically we already know the outcome, but I would have said it beforehand anyway, so I'm still going to say it. I think Are You Not Entertained is my number one pick for team to watch out for. I think that they've done the work. They've put the effort in. I've seen it firsthand at this point. Like, he has Xanadu has actually put in the time and effort to really kind of make his name and make his mark in this league, I think. And I think a lot of the other teams can still have the time to really do the same thing, but I haven't seen it from them as well. So I'm putting my number on him.
Goom, go ahead.
Honestly, even if I could pick myself, I wouldn't.
Fair enough.
I feel like my team.
Okay, moving on.
I feel like my team is really going to shine later on. The ones I'm excited to see now, I'm probably going to go with Ereptile Dysfunctions.
Oh,
They seem
good
like they
choice.
have a really solid lineup. They got a lot of they got some interesting characters in there, and
I think that we're going to see some very high caliber Blood Bowl ball coming out when we see Ereptile Dysfunction versus the Orcspendables this week. I think that is absolutely going to be the game to watch. I think we're going to see a lot of interesting plays coming
I
out.
agree wholeheartedly.
But my personal team that I want to see, just off of entertainment value alone, is actually going to be Perryites Pustules, only because I feel it's so different than any other team that we really see. Like, this team, that team, it has their people that do things separately, but Perryites just seems so weird. There's that one monstrosity in the beginning, and you don't want to be anywhere near that thing. So I'm very anxious to see what that team can do, and looking forward to seeing him play next week.
Yeah, Perryites
this week.
Perryites are Nurgle. Nurgle is a very unique team, and while it's a very difficult team to play as, it's also an extremely interesting and weird team to play against. So I'm also interested to see how everybody kind of reacts to that. I think that you're going to say, when you're playing against a team like like dwarves, I think that it might be tricky to really, bust a hole, but you're not really going to be confused what's happening at any time. Whereas I think against something like Nurgle, I think a lot of teams might get might basically start panicking, just seeing, like, not fully understanding how they're supposed to deal with it.
Yeah, and if there's chaos on the field, I mean, that has to be advantage Nurgle. Like, that is what they are designed to do.
Well, I would say advantage chaos if there's chaos on the field.
Oh.
I hope
Well
so.
said.
I certainly hope so.
I will say, as much as we've said that, I'm also interested in seeing. I'm really hoping to see Cirque du Soleil. I'm really hoping to see them once you start getting the real hang of that team. I'm really hoping to see some high flying trapeze action out of those leapers. I think they're one of the most interesting teams to watch.
I think we're going to see a very different Kislev team coming out next week. I think that there's going to be an intense training session.
Kislev was going to be my choice before you announced that you were going to be playing Kislev, so I'm really excited to see how you end up going with them.
Well, they do not disappoint.
No, I think even in the
So
game
we
we
will
saw, which if you haven't seen the game, check out on this Twitch channel, Sir Jumpnick's Twitch channel here. You should be able to check out the game. It should be one of the recent casts.
Yep. It might have a Ocarina of Time
I think I changed it before
thing next to it, so don't be confused about that.
Okay, maybe. But yeah, it should be just the same day as this one earlier in the day.
Okay.
It would be the first game of the Unnamed Blood Bowl League. I highly recommend everybody watches it. It's interesting. I think we did a pretty good job, Goom and I, of pointing out some interesting things that could have been done differently and what the players' thought processes were, and some interviews with some players. So. We're looking to do that for the rest of this league as well. We probably won't get every game, It's probably too much time and effort, but we're gonna try and get as many as we can in here. We're gonna have some. I'm definitely gonna be bringing in a rotating cast of co-casters. I mean, obviously we've already had Goom. I know Bose. I know you're gonna be out there with me, not just for recaps, but also for some other things. I know
Absolutely.
Xanadu's gonna be in here as well, and I know a few other people have said they're interested. So I'll be doing that as well as streaming my own games. I'll be and I'll probably be walking through my thought process for those. So if you're interested, follow and see how it all goes. And yeah.
All
I
right,
think
well,
I'm
that
finished
about
for today.
wraps things up for us, folks. Thanks again for joining in. Big shout out to all our viewers out there in the Twitch universe. Any last words from our commentators before we wrap this up and send it back to production?
Yeah, I'm gonna win, and I hope you guys are all ready to get completely wrecked by the Expendables.
Yeah, I'm probably not going to win, but I'm going to see how many I can take out before I lose.
I like it.
And there it is.
Pray
Thanks
to
for joining
Nuffle.
us.
Hail Nuffle. Praise Nuffle.
Hail Nuffle. Thanks for tuning in. Take care.
All right. Good job, guys.
Woo!
Stop.